So I want to talk a little bit about experiencing breakdowns to breakthroughs as it relates to the business and branding metamorphosis process when you're in that business and branding cocoon. Because what people have to realize is that you are becoming unformed, all right? It's part of the decomposing aspect that I've spoken about in other videos, and there'll be links below in the playlist so that you can avail yourself to some of the other talks and trainings that I've done as it relates to the metamorphosis aspect for business and branding. So when we are breaking down to break through, so to speak, and sometimes you can feel like you've had a breakthrough to the breakdown, that you've had a breakthrough that's occurred, and then it seems to be some type of breakdown that precedes that. And I want to talk a little bit about why that happens, because it is a process. So in terms of the breaking down, is that you have to understand that the breaking down is necessary. So as I metaphorically leverage the caterpillar to the butterfly process that we understand within the chrysalis, within the cocoon process, there's a breaking down, an unformedness that takes place within that gap in transition, really from a death to a rebirth or a new birth into something completely different, a different entity of expression. One of the reasons why I continue to talk about that and emphasize that even more is because there's different vibrations and calibrations and tones and textures, believe it or not, to just that particular aspect that we leverage metaphorically. And the reason why it's best to come at it from different vantage points is because the more you hear it, not from a redundancy type of standpoint, but it provides more clarification in terms of, and also a reminder of the process and why that actually has to take place. So, of course, people don't like discomfort, right? And so when you're having a breakdown, in a sense, it can feel like you're literally having some type of breakdown. But when we reposition our minds and understanding why it's occurring, it changes not necessarily the circumstances, but it does change how you actually go through that process. So when you understand that in order to become something completely different, you have to be able to surrender the old or the current that is existing, right? Because you want to come into a newer form. So something that I normally talk about and I teach when I'm doing branding and business renovation, just from the entrepreneurial standpoint in the frameworks, is that when you think about when a home is getting renovated, right? When a home's getting renovated, you understand that there are different elements and aspects that are going to have to be broken down, or some type of demolition. Divine demolition is what I call it. A demolition takes place. But you're not looking at the demolition in terms of, oh my gosh, there's something so wrong here. No, you understand that the demolition is happening for a reason. If you want a newer part of the home or something reconstructed or renovated, you have to have that process. So when we're in the metamorphosis process in branding and business, and the breakdowns are occurring, the decomposing is taking place, we go through this with less struggle when the mindset understands why it's happening. Well, if I want to become a butterfly, then obviously I have to go through this process. Now, again, it doesn't necessarily change that it's an uncomfortable process of becoming unformed to gain a new identity, because you've been accustomed to a former identity and you need to gain a new one that you are not really aware of, that you'll be learning about this as you are metamorphosizing, right? Yeah. So again, it's just the way that we position this in the mind, and it helps the process, at least again in understanding and awareness, not to hate the process as it's happening, even though it's uncomfortable. So if you look at yourself as a diamond, and you are, you understand that the process of producing a diamond had pressure to be put on a coal to bring it forth. It's an extraction factor, and you actually are having extractions going through this process. So, as that's happening, yes, things are crumbling, breaking down, so to speak. But the breakthroughs that occur along the way are the awareness and the higher advantage that it will be, not just to the end game or end result of the process, but who you are becoming in the process, where you learn about your resiliency even to revenue, okay? And your resiliency to strengthen yourself through the process, okay? And to gain higher knowledge and awareness under some of the most strenuous times, right? So when you can develop innovation for yourself through that process, you are more refined, and you come at what you bring to the marketplace and to your experience as a whole. It's on a completely different level, because it wasn't happening for you when things were just all perfect, so to speak, which things never are, but more comfortable. You leverage the discomfort in the process and allow the contrast to actually create more cash flow advantage for you as you're building character along the way. Those are the breakthroughs that you really need to be paying attention to. A lot of times people are paying attention or want to pay attention more to the breakthroughs that seem like it's tangible results in terms of how their business has expanded, how their brand, has expanded in a certain way, and from the impact and the income. And again, of course, those are highly important, because that's why you're in business, right? To make an impact on others with what you are providing. But the bigger breakthroughs are the character that's developed so that you can be more expanded in terms of what you're going to bring to the marketplace. Okay? Character is currency. And believe it or not, that's one of the traits, so to speak, that's not really being developed properly, especially in the entrepreneurial space. But that's a whole nother conversation, but still a very conversation that's very relevant to what I'm speaking about. And I do teach about this within the metamorphosis process, because as I've talked about in other videos, without the metamorphosis, there cannot be accurate evolution that can later be optimized. And when a brand cannot be really fully optimized, the business cannot be fully optimized, then it's just not going to show up in the marketplace the way that it needs to. Okay? So I want to go back to talking again about the breakdown to the breakthrough. The breaking down, as I mentioned, is part of the process. It is required, because there are certain frameworks and certain identities about your branding, certain frameworks within your business, they need to be let go, or they need to come under their own true metamorphosis and evolution, so again, they can be fully optimized. But if you are resistant and you are against the process and hating the process along the way, you'll understand that actually isn't very logical, because you have to go through this in order to get the results, whether it's comfortable or not. So when you think about when people are working out, and especially if they're new to the working out aspect, but even those who do it regularly, and I happen to be someone who is, a cross-trained fitness, instructor too, and understanding that you have to, in order to get to the next level, or even to start, there's some things you have to put in. And working out is not always a comfortable thing. It can be fun. But when you think about the results and the benefits and the results, it changes the game. Why do people even do it, right? Why do they push themselves through that, right? Even the great Muhammad Ali said that he hated every day of training or whatever, but he pushed himself to it. Why? Because the results and who it made him to be. So he was resilient, and the continuation with that, but it didn't mean that he enjoyed it all of the time, okay? So when we're going through these breakdowns to breakthroughs, No one said that you necessarily had to enjoy the process, okay? I do find that there are elements and aspects certainly are enjoyable, more so than others. But when you look at what it is you're going for, it should change the perspective. Going back metaphorically to the butterfly aspect and the caterpillar, which once it enters into chrysalis, it's not a caterpillar anymore. So it is in that chemicalization, because that's really what it is. It's very much a toxic breakdown in the sense of old data that is now shedding away so that the new data can come for the new emergence. So when you understand it like that, you have to allow that to happen. You don't have to question why it's happening. And that's what a lot of people do in their branding metamorphosis or business metamorphosis. But really, honestly, I'm just going to go back to this. I've talked about this in other videos. See, when you've been conditioned to leverage the butterfly to the caterpillar process as transformational, that's a very old paradigm vibration. And what I found is that it really is not producing a butterfly. It's producing a bigger caterpillar because it's creating a more comfortable cocoon aspect to just kind of evolve and expand something that is, versus allowing it to break down and become something completely different. Okay? So, another breakthrough in awareness is about the actually becoming something different. And will you actually allow that to take place? Can you actually let go of an old identity in your branding or an old identity within your business and allow a metamorphosis, a true metamorphosis to take place? Not business transformation, not brand transformation, not growth, not expansion on that level, but an absolute true metamorphosized, evolutionized brand and business that can be fully optimized to become a new creation. Because the new creation is what's going to serve in the marketplace for your highest advantage. Not even a rebranded version of something that is. It is what is the metamorphosis. And I'm not saying some elements and aspects of the rebranding don't play a process, because they do. What you'll find is that you'll probably go through more rebrandings during the process before you come into a more cohesive form of a new identity in the branding. But all of those rebranding processes are critical because they allow you to have, yes, that growth and evolution and transformation within the chrysalis cocoon process. But the outcome is going to produce something that has evolved into something completely different, but all of those other strands of beingness of a brand and business will find themselves as elements and components or platforms or different developments within the branding space. Now, let me go back to the breakdown to breakthrough, because I can start going into a completely different training with, within this. Happens to be one of my favorite things, or has been through the years, to teach on, in terms of the evolution to becoming a brand expression, which is something I teach on, the difference between being a traditional brand and a brand expression. And that's where the evolution is leading for the higher optimization. So again, before I get too carried away, because I can feel myself saying, oh, yep, I want to go in here. But, coming back to, the breakdown, the breakthrough. So the things that I'm sharing now are breakthrough points. So I don't want you just focused on, the manifestation of a breakthrough, of something I worked on and here's the outcome, or I had a financial breakthrough here. Currency has to break through from within first. The profitability has to break through from a holistic vantage point first. And when you embody that and then allow that to become part of the new fabric that is emerging, then what you see is that whether you want to call them manifestations or results or different things, they will play out in a very unique way, a more expansive way, normally with subtleties and more of a simplicity in the way that they align and execution. All right? And most of you aren't accustomed to that because you need it to be hard. You've been conditioned that it has to be hard versus it being aligned and flowing. Of course, there's the work that's going to have to be done. You're not escaping that part, but it's the way that you work. The cliche or the phrase work smarter, not harder. It's like that, but it's more 10x. It's more evolutionized, okay? Where it's not really just a concept. It literally is a way of being. That you find a way to work in more simplistic, more efficient and effective, frameworks. And that's part of, yes, the breaking down is you breaking down the structure of it needs to be hard, okay? Or for some, breaking down the structure that, oh, if it's not easy, then it must be wrong, So you shed away a lot of the decomposed or predisposed thought patterns and processes and things that you've been leveraging, all right? Those happen within the breakdown. And then that is a breakthrough when you get the awareness of learning how to accurately balance these different concepts and leverage them accordingly. That's a breakthrough in awareness, all right? Which is going to help you not to suffer in terms of how you go through, because this is important. A lot of times people are focusing on, just the outcome. And it's okay to have that in mind and reverse engineer, okay? But one of the things that I say, especially as it relates to character in business or just in general, how you go through it sometimes is just as important as what you become, all right? Because you want to make sure too that along the way, as you are going through your transition, you got to be careful how you're still showing up, what you're representing. Because though you could be in a process and be very forgiving of yourself and come through that process, emerge as this beautiful butterfly, but you have to remember there are going to be different people or different aspects that are going to remember how you were going through certain things and what you were doing during that time. And they may not be as forgiving in a sense, or maybe people who can't let that go. And we can say, well, then forget about them because I've evolved. But yeah, yes and no. You have to be careful because some of these people could be those who could really benefit not just from you, but actually help you to expand. But if you fall down in character or you do some things even in between that metamorphosis process, rebranding process, all those different things, yeah, it can make people not as apt to help. Or they were part of your divine plan and things shifted because now you've done something that is just not going to be in alignment or congruent, or they feel like they have to regain trust, around that area. So it is important. So the reason why that's a high level breakthrough factor is because, again, when you are emerging, newer things are coming into play and newer people are, or different higher awarenesses of people that you've currently dealt with. And remember, if they're part of the process, then they're too having their own evolution too. But it's meant to sync up at a certain time. But again, you have to be careful how you're going through, what you're going through. So you can be breaking down, but we can break down effectively without breaking others down in the process, or doing things that are going to be just, out of alignment. So just keep that in mind. So as you can see, this is a topic that I can talk about, for days. But I want you to get the maximum benefit of this experience by, if you going back, or if you haven't gone through some of the videos that I've done in a playlist as it relates to, the branding, metamorphosis and evolutionary aspect that will help you fully optimize your branding for this new now business normal. And that's the thing, is as you're breaking down to break through, you'll be learning the true nature of this new now business normal, what you need to do to sync up with the new era marketplace first, then start your kind of rebranding aspect and business empire renovation, type of experience. So I want you to start just looking at breakthroughs in business on a completely different level. And some of you are already doing this, but I'm going to invite you to take that awareness in a more expanded context. Take it to the next level, okay? So you can gain the now and next level comprehensions, and then ultimately see what it is that you need to do next to start doing the master planning and execution to bring some things into form. So now that I brought the bring things into form, I have to say this before closing out. You cannot force the formation, okay? You cannot force things to come into form. Things will start formulating. You'll get the prompting to then start divinely assimilating. It's like putting together a piece of a puzzle where you've gotten different clues and you've gotten different pieces. But you do have to start the assimilation process of what's going to fit here, what's going to fit there, and that's a process. No one just comes to a puzzle, especially one that's very complex in a sense, and just masterfully puts it together, in 5 minutes if it's a 200-piece type of puzzle. Now, maybe the ones we could get away with were the ones we grew up with, the starting ones. Well, they got the bigger blocks in a sense, but the metamorphosis of the entrepreneurial journey, branding journey, certainly isn't like that, because you've accumulated a lot of things over the years, and you have to even decipher in a sense and discern which pieces go where. And even as the new is coming into form, because it is fragmented, you're going to have to then be present to start that assimilation process. And then also to start molding and shaping some things that will come into form. But again, you can't force it. You have to flow the form, okay? So that's a breakthrough awareness, all right? So again, as you're going through the breakdowns and knowing this is required, the breaking down, old stuff going away, me, yes, stepping out of my comfort zone in a sense, but not just stepping out of the comfort zone. It is shifting into a new trajectory of brand beingness and business empire expression, okay? So, of course, like I said, I can go on for days, about this particular, topic here. But be present with what I have brought forth today. And as I mentioned, go back and look at other videos within the playlist, and there'll be a link to the playlist, below. And don't just listen to these, all right, in terms of I'm just listening and taking notes, getting through. Go back and be present with them. And there are going to be some that will call to you more so than others. Be present with those even before you start moving on to other ones. Now, you can listen to the playlist for sure all the way through, take some notes or so, but then go back through and let specific ones call to you. Because again, this is a process, and you need to allow yourself to decompose accurately, decompose, so that you can recompose, if you will, or have the new composure that wants to come through and wants to be expressed. So this can be a very beautiful yet brutal journey in a sense, depending on, how you go through it. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but definitely allow yourself to experience these new breakthroughs, and you will see the tangibility. You will. But things may come into a different type of form than what you were planning. And allow that to be, because it is part of the process and it is absolutely necessary and required. All right. So I look forward to being back with you soon to bring more videos even of this nature.